Hello again YouTube, Pan here, and it's just going to be a relatively short one this week. I've been sort of sitting and hoping that a particular delivery was going to arrive and I could show you something super special, but the way that, delivery dates and the postal system tend to work mean that unfortunately I'm not in a place to do that right now. So instead I wanted to do a quick one talking about, well, let's see what's in the purse first. And yeah, you probably could have guessed from the big bulging way that the purse was straining in its seams this week, but we have a bar of silver that is, ba-dum-ba-dum-bum-bum, 1 kilogram of 9995 plus pure silver. And I wanted to talk a little bit about what's been happening to the silver price over the last few weeks, because it really is quite disheartening. So I don't buy silver because I think the price is going to go up dramatically. Certainly over time I expect it to beat inflation, but if it does any more than that, then that's a bonus for me. And in the short term there are fluctuations, so between the point where I bought this bar and now the spot price for silver has dropped by more than 50 quid, which, given that the spot price of silver was somewhere around the £400 mark when I bought it, means that this has lost more than 10% of its value. And for pretty much any asset, for something to lose more than 10% of its value in the space of a month or two is pretty troubling, and it can be really disheartening. And when you combine that with things like, the premium that you pay over spot for silver and the VAT that you have to pay for silver if you're buying it in the UK, can really make silver seem pretty unappealing right now. And there is this temptation to, should I get out of silver? Should I sell all of this? Put it all into gold instead, perhaps. Something that I know that I can get at a lower premium over spot, and something that hasn't seen its spot price tank in the last month. And the answer is that is absolutely the worst possible option, because all that would do is that would be locking in this loss effectively. Because if I sell it now, then it means that I will have made, the however much, at least 50 quid loss. Whereas if I hold on to it, there is, kind of a strong chance that the price will rebound. If not all the way, then certainly most of the way, and in likely probably considerably further. And it's all about the long term versus the short term. I'm not buying silver on the principle of this being a short term, make money scheme. It's much more, this is part of a wider portfolio, and this is a hedge against things like, the pound tanking if and when Brexit occurs. And for that purpose, it's still absolutely serving that. This kilogram of silver is still a kilogram of silver. But it can be a little troubling. No, scratch that, it can be very troubling. So what I'd say is now is absolutely not the time for me to, cash out and panic and sell all of this, but it does also mean that I am kind of stuck with it for at least the short term and probably the medium term. Which again is a bit of a pain. I do silver mostly as a savings discipline thing, and to see my savings shrink by that amount is, again, troubling. Technically it would have been better if I put it in a bank account, but then again, if I put it in a bank account, there's a good chance that I wouldn't have saved it so effectively. So being stuck with it also means that budgeting is really, really important. I know it's tempting to buy more shiny. I bought a lot of shiny to begin with, and then I tailed off, and that's a good thing. Because what that means is that I have enough money to get by day to day. I don't need to sell this, because if I needed to sell this right now, I would be making that loss, and so I would have lost money on this. But I want to talk a little bit more about this bar itself, because it's quite a fun bar. So, this is not the prettiest one in the world. It's not from ABC, despite what the logo says. I think this is in fact from Ainsley Bullion Company, which is an Australian silver bullion producer. It's a kilogram, and I have weighed this, and it is in fact 1,001 grams. So if anything, I'm a little cautious when I handle it because I can't afford to scrape any off. Otherwise, nobody wants a kilogram bar that's got less than a kilo of silver in it. And actually, I think part of the reason why it might be so close to the kilo mark is if I turn it this way, you can see that when it was poured, there must have been a tiny bit of water or air or something that got caught at the bottom. And so you have some very interesting little sort of voids on the bottom here. Like this one in particular, with this kind of little floating island of silver right in the middle of it, I really find quite cool. And then, kind of looking up the side of this as well. And that is one of the fun things about kind of, poured silver is when you get these little imperfections. It's a little bit sort of, it adds to like kind of like crude kind of, chunky rustic feel of it, which is quite appealing. And I have to say, you know me, I'm a big one for having something being, kind of nice and chunky in the hand. And this one is really, really freaking chunky. Like, when I first saw it, I was a little disappointed because, again, I was expecting something bigger. But then when I put it in my rucksack, I was like, oh no, no, this really is quite heavy actually, and I could really feel the strain of it. So yeah, people talk about, kind of the weight and the bulk of silver, but yeah, this is still, it's still quite a small thing, and this is several £100 worth of precious metal, just, in a small enough lump that I could, quite easily just put this in a pocket somewhere, and nobody really know that I had it, which is always kind of one of the fun things about it, the hiding in plain sight principle when you have this stuff. So this is in fact my biggest individual piece of silver. It's the only real commercial bar that I have. I mean, I have some of the backyard bullion kind of 1 ounces from the Silver Forum, and I still don't quite get why some people are so keen on bars. Okay, this one I like it because it really, kind of ticks the boxes for that kind of nice big chunky feeling of I'm holding a big lump of metal. And that's kind of inarguable, but would I prefer it in the format of like, kind of a 1 kilo coin, or in the format of, kind of a larger number of smaller coins? I'm tempted to say that I would. It's hard to say. I mean, certainly in terms of the aesthetics, whilst there's, kind of there's things about the imperfections, the detail, the texture that I do like, you get so much more detail on a coin, even a relatively simple one. So I'm just sort of, I'm a bit torn, I have it, it's there, kind of, it's sitting in the safe, but it's not something that I feel a tremendous compulsion to kind of, get out and, kind of gaze at, or, get a loop on and kind of, admire the details. It's much more, much more visceral than that. So, silver, it's, potentially a good time to buy. Do I think it's going to go higher or lower? Sure. I'm not a financial advisor. I can't give any advice on this. Anything that one says about the silver price is fundamentally crystal ball gazing. But all I'll say is that, pre 2017, the price of silver was considerably lower than it is today. It got down to the point of being about like £9.50 an ounce, and I guess I should my shoulder and say I'm not sure that there's any good reason why it won't go that low again. Do I think it's going to stay that low, and do I think it's never going to recover? Of course not. But this is definitely one for holding on to for the time being, I think. So, silver, good investment, bad investment, good time to buy, bad time to sell. What do you reckon? Let me know in the comments below. Alright, bye for now.